Okay, so Amir, can we start by introducing Conovi?
Sure. Conovi is essentially a incubator of digital startups for the Farsi-speaking world, which is predominantly in Iran.
Okay. And can you tell us about the startups and the way, basically what you do at Kofoni, basically the work?
Sure. So essentially, the startups that really concern us are the ones that are scalable, but the ones that we can basically localize. So what we look for in our startups is partially a non-startup philosophy of finding partners in Europe or in the West or in South America where they have a digital offering that we can potentially localize into this Farsi-speaking language and the culture specific to Iran. So what we've done recently is we initially launched the first research panel in Iran. So basically about 250,000 subscribers who have agreed to receive survey invitations and allows us to basically conduct all sorts of online research. The second venture we launched about last month is the first our first Iranian MMO, so a massively multiplayer online game, basically context in the medieval times. And with that company, it was a Bulgarian partnership. Right now, we're basically looking to expand these two offerings, really mature them, and then essentially just expand into different lineups, particularly into media.
And what type of startups have been most successful in Iran? What kind of, is it gaming, e-commerce, and things like that?
Well, I mean, Iran in the region has a very large internet population. About 50% of the 80 million people have access to internet. So it's definitely probably the largest unrivaled population. The sites that do the best are usually developed by Iranians themselves. So daily deal startups. We have e-commerce websites that are starting to boom and blossom. Online games are usually brought in from the way we do it, which is bringing out from foreign companies like Germany or so on, and they come to Iran. They're not usually developed in Iran. What happens is what we notice is about 90% of the traffic of Iranians go outside of Iranian-based websites. So they're looking at other languages to, get their curiosities satisfied. What we do notice is that entertainment is huge. So if you can bring games, if you can bring ways to shop and things to their doorstep like that, typically that really succeeds very well.
And in terms of geographic location, has there been any particular area in the world that has been more successful in the Iranian market, localizing, so for example, localizing startups from the Middle East as compared to startups from Europe, Far East Asia, and so is there one particular area that has been more successful than the other?
Yeah. Online games, I'll use the example of Travian. It's a very big regional success story. Travian does extremely well in Saudi Arabia, for example. Travian was in Iran from very early days, maybe 5 years ago. What they did was they were basically the first game of its kind, massively multiplayer online game that brought the game made into Farsi. And because 60% of the population in Iran are under 30, games and these things just do remarkably well. When you bring something and you suddenly make it from English, now it's in Farsi, your own native language, the population of youngsters appreciate nothing less than that. So I would say online games right now is on the rise. E-commerce is extremely a hotbed right now. Again, in the last 18 months, more than 20 daily deal sites have launched. Particularly because in Iran, e-commerce is facilitated most of the time by online debit cards. So we don't have Visa, we don't have MasterCard, we don't have PayPal, but we do have debit cards which are backed by the central bank and you can use them online. So people are really friendly with e-commerce oriented things. They love to just be able to have the convenience of not leaving home and then transacting online. So I mean, if anyone ever wants to actually consider Iran as a market, I would say e-commerce is top 3 kind of areas to invest in.
So what is the process like? So if say someone on an e-commerce platform wants to expand to Iran, can they go to Conovi and .com? Can they how can they get in contact and how long is the process?
So basically, in Iran, it is an isolated market with a little bit less transparency than most, brands and companies are used to. What we suggest and what the usual standard model is to find a suitable local partner. So, for example, Conovi represents a partnership with Pars Online, the largest private ISP in Iran. So in that example, for a digital company that wants to do, for example, an e-commerce startup in Iran or an e-commerce expansion of their product, I would suggest they find and negotiate a partnership with a company like Pars Online or a company that is in this same type of vertical. Yeah, Conovi is exactly established for that. So it's established to basically vet out partnerships where we can take games or mediums or e-commerce vehicles and it's basically successful products from elsewhere and then localize them and copy and paste them in Iran. So we would take care of everything from marketing, payment gateways, staffing, and everything under the sun dealing with localization of your product.
Okay, and I want to ask you, there was some talk about a year ago about an intranet being built in Iran, which is like internet but isolated in the world. Is that, do you have any information about that? And if that were true, what do you think the impact will be on, startups? Like, should businesses worry, or, your thoughts on that?
It's been like several years since news of the national internet has been around. And the main thing about national internet is, one, it is primarily focused on, if it does launch, which it hasn't yet, it's primarily focused on supporting government institutions, banks, really the infrastructure of the country. It's not really for the privatized businesses to concern themselves with. It will not replace, and it's not designed to. It's designed to basically have a secure system in place for local institutions. And if it does come out publicly, then that's where it will be centered. Privatized companies don't need to worry or be paranoid about anything being become more sensitive or an issue for them.
Okay, thank you, Amir.